Hello everybody, this is Wendy. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here with me today. We are going to be featuring the Honeybee stamp set and dies. This is a bundle that you're going to be able to purchase in the new 2020 mini catalog. If you need one of those catalogs and you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, then you can get one from me by just sending me an email or getting me through my contacts on my blog. So this is all the stamped images, and then on the back of here I'm going to place all the die cut pieces that come out of these dies. One of the things I want to tell you right off the bat is this video is really long because there's 3 different cards. However, if you don't want to watch this video or you only want to know the measurements on how to make these cards, you can go straight over to my blog. There's a link in the description below the video. It's the very first link, and there are instructions on printable instructions, free printable instructions on how to make these cards. So this is the card style we're making, and I've done a few variations. This is what I'm calling a crossover fun fold card. So it opens up really fun and cute like this, and then you have a place inside to write. So this is kind of like a little secret compartment where it goes through and sticks, and then when you open it, it's like this, got this really great wow factor. Now I'm going to share all of the measurements for everything here while we're talking. Every card base, so instead of having to repeat myself every time, I'm just going to tell you, every card base is cut at 4 1/4 by 11, and then it is scored at 2 3/4 from each end. And I just realized in this part of this video, I don't have any of my jewelry on my hands, and that is weird. Anyways, so 4 1/4 by 11, score at 2 3/4 inch from each end of the cardstock. And let's see, I have to go back to my notes here to make sure I'm giving you all the right info. Okay, so this one is cut. This is a piece of the new designer series paper that is only available for free during celebration. It is gorgeous. It's gold and black, and it is a free giveaway. This piece is cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then this piece is cut at 3 3/4 by 5, and this is just a piece of Whisper White cardstock. So the things I need to share with you really quick while I'm doing all my layering here is that I still have plenty of room in my paper party. If you're interested in joining my Spring Fling paper share, I call it a paper party because we have a fun Facebook Live, we do giveaways, and you get a card kit for every single pack of paper that you get. So you get sampler packs of paper, and then we do card kits with those. So you get all of that stuff for $39. It is like the best deal ever, and that includes your shipping. So if you're interested in that, there is a link below the video. Like I said, I still have spots available, so if you want to sign up, you can, and we would love to have you. What will happen is you'll sign up, then I will send you an invoice through PayPal. You will pay that invoice, and then you will be in on the party. Okay, these layer pieces here are cut, that are on the front, are cut at 2 1/2 by 3 3/4. And then I really like to use a T-square ruler to line my stuff up so that it's straight, especially with something like this, because it's kind of got a mechanism that has to work correctly. So I've got more of the designer series paper that I used on the inside of the card, and it is cut at 1 inch by 3 3/4. I'm sorry, 3 1/4 inches by 3 1/2 inches. And then the Whisper White that I'm layering it on is cut at 1 inch by 3 3/4. So you need 3 of each of those. And the measurements are exactly the same for the one of the other cards that I'm going to make, and I'll tell you that when we get there. So you're going to layer all these pieces up so that you have your little crossover arms ready to go. And then you're going to add them to the front of the card. The way you add them to the front of the card is really important. You need to add adhesive on 2 of them on the left side and adhesive on the right side on the one in the middle. So I'm going to kind of show you how I do that here. And put it down, and then we're going to add our other embellishments and stuff. So these cards look really fancy and complicated, but they're actually so super simple to put together, and it just takes a little bit of following directions, seriously, and it's not that hard. You might notice that I've been using a lot of glue lately versus runner adhesive. For these cards in particular, I found that using glue is more helpful because I can still move. Now see here, you can see I'm going on the right side with this piece. With the glue, you can still move and manipulate the item that you're putting down just a little bit before it sets up. If you use snail or not fast fuse, good Lord, that's been a long time ago, tear and tape adhesive, if you use either one of those, then you're kind of stuck with wherever you put it. So if you put it on cattywampus, or if you just put the wrong piece down or whatever, then you're just stuck with it and you have to kind of live life that way. So these still allow you to wiggle it around and move it around to get it just in the right spot. All right, so here is the basic piece. Now, this is where things get a little tiny bit tricky. Not crazy tricky, but a little bit. This is Post-it note tape, and for those of you who are interested in the products that are not Stampin' Up! Products that I'm using in the video today, one of them is the Post-it note tape, and the other item is the T-square ruler. I will link to those on Amazon so that you can purchase them there. And for those of you that are getting antsy and wondering if we're going to have story time, we are. I just want to make sure I make it through one of these cards, sharing all of the details prior to moving into story time, because then I get all distracted. So as you see here, I taped this down on the front, and then I marked it with my pencil as to where I need to add my glue. So I'm just going to quickly add my little bit of glue. And then I have found the easiest way to do this is to lay the arms right on top. I'm calling them arms, and line them back up with those lines that I've already drawn and kind of just stick it down. And because I have that tape on the other side, it stuck it back to the front. So back to the front, that sounds crazy. So it's stuck in place, basically. So I did something here that you shouldn't do. So do what I say and not what I do. I put everything on this card without coloring it. I have no idea. I don't know what my brain was thinking. But I can still color it once it's on the card. It's just one of those things where if you mess up and you have an oopsie, you're kind of committed. So definitely be aware. And then of course I couldn't get this tape off. Be aware that if you stick something down and then you haven't colored it or stamped it or done whatever you're going to do to it, then you're kind of stuck with whatever you do. And if you make a mistake, you're stuck with it unless you figure out a way to cover it up. So I didn't want to do a bunch of crazy coloring. There's really not much coloring to be done because these are very basic. Now, you could leave them just black and white. Honestly, it's kind of a cool look. But I just can't help myself. I really love color. So I went ahead and added some color to the flowers and the bee. And then I was thinking like, well, maybe I'll just do part of the beehive with a little bit of yellow. And then I ended up coloring the entire thing yellow. And I did that on I think I did it on the other card. I don't think I did it on this one. So this one doesn't have any of the coloring and the other one does. I stamped the little hello sentiment from the stamp set, and I am using a Stampin' Dimensional to pop it up and add it next to my bee. And then this card is finished. Really simple. it's one of those things that looks complicated, but it's really simple, and it's got a huge wow factor. Anybody could make this card. Seriously, like, it is not complicated if you can follow instructions. So here's where we're going to start breaking into a little story time, because this is all the same thing. Okay, literally exactly the same, using different papers and a different orientation for the card. So the designer series paper pieces that you see here are cut a little different. So these pieces are cut at 2.5 by 4, and the basic black that I'm putting them on is cut at 2 5/8 by 4 1/8. But that flirty flamingo piece is still 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 2 3/4 on each end, and all my little arm pieces are the same size. So now we get to break into some story time while you watch me assemble the rest of this card. Let me tell you about my week. It has been very interesting. So, so backing up to the beginning of the week, which was this last Sunday, we went to Starbucks. I think it was like after church. And when we went, somebody paid for us. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but this is a thing. Like, sometimes when you go through the Starbucks drive-thru, the person in front of you will pay for your drink. Now, I have personally done this for people probably a handful of times, where I've paid for the person behind me, because I just think it's such a fun, neat thing to do. And I will admit that I always ask how much their order is, because I think I don't really want to pay for a whole office. Like, if somebody has like a $40 order, I don't maybe want to pay for that, because, you know, it's a lot of money. But if it's like, you know, $10 or whatever or less, okay, fine, I'll pick up the tab. So I've done that a few times, but I've never been the recipient of it, ever. And I've always kind of thought, like, oh, it would be so neat to, like, go through the drive-thru and be one of the people that get that. So after church, we go, and I get that. The people in front of us pay for our drinks. So I then decide, not only did they pay for my drink, they paid for the person behind me. So I look in my rearview mirror, and behind that person is a CAL FIRE truck, which is our fire, like our state fire people. So I pay for his. I pay for the CAL FIRE person. And so I leave, whatever, we go on about the rest of our day. Okay. So then, I'm trying to think of the sequence of events of all of this stuff. So then on Tuesday, my daughter has art class. So I take her to art after school. It's like an art program thing, and it's an hour long. So I take her to art, and a lot of times if I have other running around to do, I will do it during that time, and I plan it out so that I don't have to make a special trip. So you have to understand, where I live is very rural, and so for me to go to a grocery store of any size, I have to drive 15 minutes, at least 15 minutes. It's not like I have a grocery store right around the corner. And it's like windy roads. It's down a little ways from where we live. So it's not a ridiculous drive by any means, but it's one of those things where I just try to plan, because it's not something I want to just be hopping in the car and going all the time over into that area of town unless I have to. It's actually a completely different town than where I live. So anyway, so on Tuesdays, if I need groceries or something, I order them Monday night from Safeway, and then on Tuesdays I pick them up while she's at art, because I have absolutely fallen in love with the pick up and go thing. I don't know if you people know about this, but I'm telling you, it's what changed my life. Game changer. So you can now order groceries at places like Safeway and Rayleigh's, and order them online, and then set a date and time to pick them up and go pick them up. I'm not even playing with you. It is the best thing since sliced bread, because I despise grocery shopping. I hate it with a passion. It's just, and I know that that's really, like, when you think about it, that's disgusting, because how blessed are we that we live somewhere that I can just go to a grocery store and get food. But I really do despise it. It's such a time suck. So I actually sat and figured it out one day that it saves 2 years of my life not 2 years, 2 days per year of my life for me to be able to order groceries. Okay, really quick, back to the card. I've done all my layering, and now I'm just doing the same thing I did on the first card, except instead of the orientation and being landscape side to side, we're doing it portrait up and down. Okay, so I go pick up the groceries, and the gal comes out, and she's like, so I don't know, and I really didn't understand what she was saying. She's like, there's something wrong with our scanner, blah, blah, blah. I had to just do a bunch of stuff out of stock, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, basically, I wanted you to have your groceries, so you're getting like half of your stuff for free. And I'm like, what? So they put the groceries in my car, and I seriously was thinking to myself, I should just go in, take all the groceries in with me, have them ring me up normal, and pay the appropriate amount. And then I just kind of had this like little like feeling where I was like, just accept the blessing. Sometimes we just need to accept the blessing. Am I right? So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to take this for what it is. It's a huge blessing. I'm just going to accept it. And so I left. So I leave there, and I'm like, you know, whatever, blah, 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 going on about our day. We pick up our kid. I pick up my kid. I go back home. So I get to the next day. I have things that I have forgotten from Safeway. This is the story of my life. Now, we have a little local market that is right next door. It's like 5 minutes away from me. And when I say little, I mean little. It's a very small little general market. However, it's convenient. It costs a lot more. It's more expensive. And it just is what it is. So I ran over there to get stuff, and I needed stuff for you guys. I needed stuff to be able to record some videos using new product, and I needed some candies and things like that to make little boxes and different things for. You'll see that on Monday. So I ran over there to get candies and get different things so that I had stuff to record, because I totally forgot I needed that. And while I'm in line, I get in line behind this young man, and he's probably in his late 20s, maybe mid 20s. And they ring him up, and it comes to like $17. So here's the opening of this one. Super cute. Probably could have something else added to it, but I wasn't sure what, so I just left it alone. Okay, this card is a little different, and you notice I have jewelry on now. That's because it was recorded separately. And the measurements are still all the same. 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 2 3/4 from each end, but it has a few different techniques, and so we're just going to show you those. Okay, so I go, and I'm in there, and I'm in line behind this guy, and he is like, they ring him up, it's like $17, and he's like, oh crap, I forgot my wallet in the car. So he goes out to the car, and I'm telling you, this is why you have to just so be in tune to God, if that's who you believe in, or to your own intuition, which I personally think is always God, but to each their own. And so I felt this urging, like, just pay for his stuff. And I thought, no, I'm not going to pay for his stuff. That's weird. And so he comes back in the store, and he's like, starts walking back over, and he's like, just cancel my order. I can't find my wallet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't worry about it. I'll totally pay for it. So I paid for his order. Okay. So I pay for his order. He's super appreciative. He gives me a hug. He tells me thank you, Merry Christmas, blah, blah, blah. I tell him the same. We leave. So later that day, you can't even make this stuff up. I'm not even kidding. So later that day, I get a knock at my door. My dogs are going ballistic. They're barking and going insane. I go out the front door, and it's our neighbor who, I mean, they're okay, but you know, it's not like we hang out with these people. So I'm thinking, oh God, what's wrong? So she says, do you have chickens? Yes, I have chickens. Okay, well, I think 4 of them are in my yard. I'm like, oh, fantastic. So right now what I'm doing right here is I'm cutting a peekaboo window out of the front of this card, and I have to do it half at a time. So I put Post-it note tape on, held the die down, ran it through the machine. Now I'm putting this die back in place, and now I'm going to switch the tape over to the other side to create the window, that side of the window. So I will open this up flat, and I run it through the machine flat so that it doesn't cut all the way through the card, if that makes sense. Okay, so I go over to her yard. Yes, 4 of my chickens are in her yard, and of course 3 of the 4 are the ones that are not tame. So a little side note, if you raise chickens yourself, like under heat lamps, and you handle them, they're friendly. If you don't, they're wild. If they're raised by another chicken, then they're wild because they're not used to being handled. So 3 out of the 4 chickens that are over there were not hand raised by us. They were raised by another one of my chickens. And so because of that, they were like wild and crazy. So I go find my husband's fishing net because now I'm like, I don't know how to get these chickens out of this woman's yard. So I go get my husband's fishing net. I take it over to her yard, and I net the chickens one at a time. Bring them back to my house, put them back in my yard. Well, her yard has a chain link fence, and she has an enormous pit bull. So I'm like, how did my chickens get in your yard? And apparently she opened the gate, and my chickens were down the street. And when she opened her gate, they were like free for all, and they ran in her yard. Fantastic. And by the way, if you own a dog, scoop the dog's poop, because she apparently does not scoop the poop. And I stepped in dog crap the entire time I was in her yard chasing my chickens, which really isn't her problem because my chickens shouldn't have been in her yard. But I'm just saying, side note, scoop your poop. It's gross to leave it on the ground. So, anyway, I digress about the poop. So I go over there. So I get back. Okay, so now we're talking, this is Wednesday when this happened. So Tuesday, I had gone to the little store to get all the candies, had the rest of my day. Now we're on Wednesday. I come home from the chicken fiasco, and it never occurs to me to put Trudy in her kennel while I'm chasing chickens. Don't even think of it. You know where the story is going. So I come home, I come in the house, and I look on the ground, and there is, in my office, where all the candy is, there's a little piece of Hubba Bubba bubblegum wrapper. Now, FYI, right here, I used the acetate sheet to stamp this beehive so that I could make sure that it was going to stamp inside that window. Okay. I didn't want to stamp it and have it be messed up because you're committed, right? So it was fine. So I went ahead and inked it up again and then stamped it. Okay, so I come in, there's a little piece of the Hubba Bubba wrapper on the ground, and I'm like, freaking crap. So I start looking all over the house, everywhere, cannot find the Hubba Bubba bubblegum anywhere. Trudy's eaten it, the whole roll, presumably. I don't really know for sure, but it's missing. So unless one of the stupid elves took it, I'm telling you that the dog ate the entire thing except for one little 1-inch square piece of the wrapper. So I call the vet, and y'all know I was at the vet last week with her about her little ear bump. So I call the vet, I tell them what's happened, they're like, bring her up here, we need to induce vomiting. Okay, FYI, now I know, all you have to do is give a dog peroxide to make them vomit. And you don't need to go to the vet. But I didn't know this. Lessons learned. I go to the vet. They pump her full of peroxide. The dog doesn't throw up. They gave her the maximum amount that they can safely give an animal with her at her weight of peroxide. And she never puked. Never even woke up in the night and puked. Literally, apparently, she's digesting the bubble gum. I don't know. I was at the vet for over an hour and she never puked. The dog never threw up. And the vet was like, I've never had a dog not throw up with this much peroxide in its gut. ever. Like, and the woman's been practicing veterinary medicine for a very long time. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And I said, so we made sure that the gum did not have xylitol in it. Xylitol is a fake sugar kind of thing that you can put, they use it in gum and other stuff now. It's very, very toxic to dogs. It makes their blood sugar crash, and it makes their liver not work. And there's nothing they can do. So the only thing you can do is induce vomiting to get the item back out of their stomach before their body starts to absorb the xylitol. So we made sure it didn't have xylitol in it, and it did not. It was good old aspartame. So she's probably going to have a brain tumor, but she won't at least die from liver failure. So winning. So anyway, she ate the Hubba Bubba. I brought her home. I was just certain she was going to wake up in the night puking and the whole thing. But the whole point of this story is, so I paid for the guy's stuff on Tuesday, and on Wednesday I have this big fiasco at the vet, and I go up there and they didn't charge me anything. How nice was that? Because I'm telling you, they could have. I was there for a freaking hour. That's a long time. And so I had my wallet out, and I was like fully expecting to pay. And they were like, no, we're not going to charge you. We didn't get her to throw up. We literally didn't do anything except watch her with you. So it's fine. Just don't worry about it. And I was like, okay, great, because I'll be here next week to have her little ear bump removed. So you'll get some of my money then. So it was fantastic. So what a blessing. Like, I don't know, just kind of made my heart soar this week when it was like, I was able to bless people. I received a lot of blessings, and it just made me feel super happy. So the other thing that I wanted to share just really quick, because we're almost out of time now, is that I know there was some discussion about me doing videos where you could like hear my crafty sounds, cutting things, gluing things, running things through, chopping things, blah, blah, blah. This video is a perfect example of a reason why I can't do that. It was recorded in 3 different chunks. So, I'll do it when I can, but when I can't, I can't, and that's how it is. Plus, you got this fantastic Storytime you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. You can shop with me at shoploveandstampin.com. Click on either one of these images to watch the videos, and that new catalog will be live January 3rd, 2020, and that's when you can buy the goodies that you saw here today. Bye-bye.